Hey everybody, just getting some stuff situated here. Theme songs gets me every time, it gets me jazzed up to do the show. On Facebook, do I have to say that it's live in the event that I made? I don't know. Well, too late now, I guess, right? Hey, Rich, how's it going? Turn this down a little bit. Rich, Mike, Nathanael, Vanessa, Heidi. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm going to wait for Kelly to come in before I reveal the beer for the night, because I know she gets very excited for that. Sugar, how's it going? Thanks for stopping on in. If you guys want to do me a favor and, yeah, I know. Actually, I just got a, that Thai artist. I got into his art group to do the fellowship one. So I forget his name. But it was it was similar to this, but it was it was a little more colorful. Yeah. So if everybody want to do me a favor and just hit the little share button and share the show, that would be awesome. That always helps out, helps get a couple people in. There she is. Kelly, thanks for coming on by. Excited for tonight's show. Should be pretty sweet. Thanks for sharing that, Mike. And also, the little lightning bolts, they use that as a metric of interaction. So pound away on that if you can. So I ended up not going with a paranormal or any High Strangers themed beer this time because I could not get it. I got my exact style from Mass Landing, so it's very complicated. Those patterns. This beer was very expensive. Nathanael. We're going to have Nathanael come on in a few. Usually it's about 7:15. We go through all the introductory stuff and have people share the show. And I go through the couple things that I got for sale before we have Nathanael on. I hope you're as pumped as I am for all this. I'm going to try to make it so... well, I can't really make it anything. The podcast goes for as long as it goes. But hopefully we don't leak into The Last of Us, so I know a lot of people are pumped on that. But if we do, that's how it goes. Alright, so I'm going to crack this beer. Thanks everybody for sharing the show. Oh my god. It's a 9.6, so this isn't... This is going to be an interesting night. Nathanael, I hope you're ready. When I get the glazed over look in my eye, you'll just be like, oh, he's not there anymore. Nope. Bradley's, hopefully he doesn't do much. Hold on, is somebody knocking on my door? No, that's just Vicky. Alright, Bradley saw a ghost. That would be, that'd be awesome. Although when I did have my ghostly encounter, it's the FBI, he just stood there by the door just looking at me while a ghost raked its hands down my back. Maybe. Alright. So before we get Nathanael on, I'll go over the few things that I do have. I got a couple new things. We'll start with the... What is it? Where is it? Did I put these up? Did I mess this up already? I didn't put the Mia Goth buttons up, but they're up in the Hellmouth Paranormal.com. So if anybody's seen that movie Infinity Pool, and Mia Goth plays I can't do. She plays Unhinged very well, and the more that I think about that movie, the more I like it. So super into it. So you can get that on the Hellmouth So the few things I do have for the show today, I have. Let's pop it in here. I don't have them on hand, but they are on their way. I've got a Last of Us tea, and you can see on the thumbnail the print on it came out beautifully. Yeah, and they're on Next Level Apparel 6010s, which are like perfect t-shirts. So I'm very excited to have those out. So I should get those this week. So, the way shipping goes, if people that haven't bought anything on here before, shipping goes, it's $5.99 bucket shipping. So you pay $1.599, and anything you get in the store, it's just $5.99 for the next 12 hours. So put in whatever you want, and you get that. All right, so that is up also. So, I found something when I was looking through some prints earlier today, and I was like, oh man, I'll put those. Oh wait, I've got to fix that. They say they're on sale for $12, and that's not. Oh no, that's the shipping. So this one doesn't have the bucket shipping because it is pretty large. So I will pop this here. We'll add this to the show. I thought that I didn't have any more of these left, but I got these Revenant 18 by 24 posters. I've got 3 of them left, so I was very excited when I went through the pile and saw them. So you can see these are all screen printed 18 by 24s. There's Leo's face right there. Gorgeous print. This is one of my favorites, though. That red really pops. So, one last look at that before I put it away. I have... Let's see what else we got on here. It's easier for me to do from my computer. Add the items to the list here. So, it is very nice. Alright. So, next up, in honor of the new horror flick that just dropped on Friday. Look at the screen print right here. Screen print. Did I say screen print? No. This is like a very thick, nice paper. Yeah. Back up, Bradley. So... It's A3 size, so it's almost 11 by 17, but it's got a little less. A little more 11 and a little less 17. Bradley's trying to drop it. I guess if you want to make an appearance on the show, Bradley, there he is. There's his face. And his snout is at the microphone. Okay. All right, buddy. Thank you. Good boy. Thank you. It'd be cool when we get the studio done that we can just have him sitting on a chair with a microphone next to him. All right, buddy, you gotta get down. That's it. It's the Scream prints. There we go. This does fall underneath the $5.99 bucket. So if you want to get one of those, is that? Oh, good. His tail. So Bradley is like this mini tank that is wonderful. And he just slimed my shirt, so hopefully that doesn't show up on camera. And he just like hits everything. All right, buddy. All right, so I got one more thing to pop in the show before we get going on this. I'm glad he walked away because this one I don't want him to slobber all over it. I know I posted this on my website before, thehellmouthparanormal.com. But now it is available on Popshop, and this is my Prometheus poster. 18 by 24. 3-color. It's got this like shimmer to this paper. And I think it glows a little bit, so I think it's pretty gorgeous. It's David. You know. So when I got asked to do this poster, because it was initially for Stylo or Substance, he wanted me to do Prometheus, because we talked about it. I was like, oh, I like Prometheus a lot. He's squeaking a ball right behind me. Nobody. Sorry. And so whenever you get asked to draw like an alien movie, like you want to draw aliens, so I made the one at the end like more prominent because I just wanted to do something cool forefront. So, all right, buddy, back up. Back up. And as always, I got a whole bunch of like pins and stuff in the store. So there you go. So you can check some of these out on there. So you can just go browse. Check any of that out, and it'll be that blanket $5.99 shipping. So if I can just ask everybody who didn't share the show yet, if you can just hit the little share button up top there before we get Nathanael in here, and we'll get going. Pinboards are universal now. Yeah, I got one from Steph. So Screaming Cat, I guess, is what her official business title is. And I have all my normal pins on it. I'm gonna get a long one made that's like a couple feet by like 12 inches, so I can put a whole bunch of pins on the table at conventions and stuff. Oh, Mike, yes. Dan Flashes, my exact style, triple IPA. So it's actually it's a triple IPA, so it's pretty thick. So thicker than I expected, and well, I'm not a beer review person whatsoever, but it's has a little citrus in it, maybe. So, but I don't know. It could not. And then people are like, "What are you talking about? Citrus and that?" I'm like, I don't know. I thought so. IPA. All right, so 7:15, and I think it's time to get Nathanael on. So if we can get one more share, we'll pop him on. We'll boost this. There we go. Thanks for the bolts. Appreciate it. All the pins aren't loaded. And let me see. Let's just take care of that real quick. Stickers. Oh yeah, because when you try to add stuff from the app, it takes so long to load in. So let's see. This would put the pins in there. We're almost ready, Nathanael. Just hold on one more moment. And then we'll add 16 to the show. All right. All those pins are added. He is, though. Thanks, Mike. All right, Nathanael. We got a call coming on in for you, so start. Don't see them in the list. Unless it's a different name. Nathanael, do you have a different name on there? Hey, Christy. Yeah, it's not showing up in the list. I guess I gotta do it through the chat, so there we go.
Hey there.
Nathanael, hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us on this this odd app to come on and talk about some stuff. So, how's the podcast doing?
Doing.
Oh yeah, that's how it is, you know.
Another episode here in a week or two.
Yeah, nice. Oh, you want to tell people the podcast that you do, so you can get a little just let them know what you do on the side.
Yeah, sure. I do a lot of things on the side. I'm a graphic designer.
Oh, nice.
9 to 5. And my freelance too, as well as doing some home improvement stuff for people. And then also on the side, I do a podcast called Sometimes It Rhyme, which can be found in pretty much all the normal spaces, Apple Podcasts, as well as Spotify. And if you search where it comes up, I've also got Instagram for it. And so I've always liked poetry as a kid, and then I grew to dislike it immensely in school, as I found out how structured it was, and they wanted to dissect everything and tear it apart. But as I got older and into college, I found that I really loved it again. And through playing guitar and writing songs and stuff, I just wanted to make poetry more accessible to people. Mm-hmm. And so that's what the podcast is all about. Just kind of my story and a lot of the stuff that's happened in my life. Crazy stories like getting chased with moose, and a little bit of the not exactly paranormal per se, but some interesting experiences I've had with moving energy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which just fun to talk about.
Yeah. You know? Nice. I think poetry is one of those things that I've always enjoyed, but like I can't really put my finger on it. I think it's just because I'm not well versed in good poetry. So when you see a good poem or a good poet, you're like, oh, this is it. And then you go to college and people in English class, people are writing poems. You're like, oh my god, this is dog shit. Mine is dog shit, and I can tell, but I can't tell. There's like such a wide breadth in between. Like my cousin has a poetry book, and they're good. It's like just painting pictures with words, and it's like it's just like such. It's just like it's just like a visual art where you're just trying to like, hey, this works for me, doesn't work for some people, kind of thing. So it's kind of cool that it just like spans the whole like spectrum for people.
Yeah, it really does. You either like it or you don't, and there's not usually a whole lot of in between.
Yeah.
But there's some really good stuff out there.
Yeah, and the graphic design game. Are you fully freelance, or are you working for a company?
I work for a company. I'm with Portsmouth Sign at the moment.
Oh, nice.
I've been there for about a half, but I've been in this industry, in the sign industry, for over a decade.
Nice.
So everything from vehicle wraps to all that kind of crazy stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it changes up every day.
Nice. I was a freelancer for like 12, 13, 14 years. I don't know exactly when the beginning and end, but it was quite the it was very, every month was just like a struggle to pay rent and just trying to figure out like, hey, yeah, you send off an invoice to somebody like a big company and they're just like, oh, we didn't get it. It was net 92, so you just gotta like, all right, I guess I gotta wait another 3 months to get paid. So that's a rough gig, but glad you got a full employment at some place doing that stuff that you love. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So basically, on this show, I usually try to talk to people about like paranormal stuff, about like their stuff with ghosts, like aliens, Bigfoot, cryptids, all that kind of stuff. Just because I always liked. Did you ever listen to Coast AM back in the day, or did you ever hear that one? It was just a show that was on from like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. and it was the longest. No, it was the top rated like radio show of all time. But it was because the show was so long, they would have guests call in, and they just could go. And the Art Bell, who was the host, he just let people go. He didn't judge anybody, and he just like listened to their stories. And I really like that about this community. Although it's very hard to try to get people to come on because some things are pretty traumatizing sometimes. And people have also emailed me like, I would love to come on, but I'll probably lose my job if I talk about it. So again, thank you for answering the message and coming on. So I figure the way we can start, because you said that you had a whole bunch of different things. If we want to start kind of chronologically of maybe what your first instance was, that experience of either UFO, either paranormal, whatever happened to you first.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just keep it in order to keep it
Yeah.
organized. And if you caught me 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't be okay with sharing this stuff because still felt kind of raw a little bit. And so definitely took some time and personal work to work through the emotions behind all this kind of stuff. And also, I have a job now that's pretty cool with whatever crazy hairstyle I show up with, or when I wear a kilt. It doesn't really matter. And so I've got no worries on that. But to start off, I grew up in this area in New England, and my parents built a little house in the woods, 3 acres surrounded by like 30 acres. But we were just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, which was great. I loved running through the woods as a kid, and all the kind of stuff that comes with that. And I grew up. Was born in the early '80s, and so there wasn't a whole lot of internet, and we didn't even have cable growing up, and internet didn't hit my house until high school. So I had a lot of free time on my hand, and not a lot of access to information and television shows. So pretty sheltered in that way. But I used to have these experiences, and this is dating back from when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I would fall asleep in my bed, and then I would wake up in different parts of the house. And I do remember, purposefully going to my parents' room when I was scared a couple of times.
Yeah.
Even sleeping on the floor because I was afraid to wake them up. But there were other times that were very different. And so, for example, I'd wake up, and my bedroom was on the downstairs of the two-story house, and my parents was on the upstairs. And there were times when I'd wake up on the stairs, sleeping on the stairs. And there were times I'd wake up on the couch upstairs. And that's fairly explainable. Oh, I was probably sleepwalking or whatever. But there were different things that made me feel like it was a little bit different. For one, I'd have these dreams. And I'd have these dreams where I would be seeing these beings that were there, and I couldn't quite explain what they were. I didn't have the words for it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know really what aliens were. And also, when these experiences would happen, I would wake up in these random parts of the house, I would have marks on my body that I would notice the next day. Oftentimes, it was on my arm. I'd have these little cut marks, and they were roughly 4 or 5 inches long. And what it looked like was if I got scratched, and then about a week after the scratch has started to heal, you see this little tiny line of a scab, if it's a fine cut, and that's what it was. But I hadn't gotten scratched. I hadn't gotten cut on anything. So I didn't really have any kind of explanation for what these marks were. And they were always like perfectly straight lines. And so I didn't quite have any idea what was going on. Again, I was just a kid.
Yeah. Well, sleeping on the stairs,
Yeah. Just like, but I would also have these dreams where aliens would come down and we were terrified. We had to stay in the house, and it was bizarre. One point I remember I was in a bookstore with my dad. He's really big into books. And he pulled out this book randomly and he showed it to me. And I remember being absolutely terrified as I was standing in the middle of this aisle. And he was showing me this book.
Hold on.
And it was just a book.
Was...
I'll show you.
Okay.
I pulled it up so I could. Communion.
I was going to try to pause you for a second and be like, I guarantee you it's Whitley Strieber's Communion. Because that is like, terrifies like a lot of people. But oh man, that's intense.
It wasn't terrifying like that's scary looking, because it's a little bit scary looking, but it's humanoid.
Yeah.
What was terrifying about it is I knew that face. Deep down, it triggered a memory. Not really a clear memory, but I was like, I've seen those before. It wasn't like, oh, that's scary looking. It was like, I know that face. And so that was one of the moments, because it hit me so hard. And it was just kind of like this unlocking of a memory, as well as a pit in my stomach and the spear that came out. I was like, wow. And then over time, I put all the stuff together, because, the dreams and then the marks on my body, the waking up in random parts of the house, and then this unexplainable fear in seeing this image that really isn't all that terrifying. So I haven't had any additional experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Probably from age 10 and on, it just kind of stopped. So, I mean, I've seen a couple things in the night sky, but I think everyone has seen something in the night sky that's
or just like stared and like, is that moving? Is that moving? Is that moving? Please,
yeah, and it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I know we're gonna get to some of the other stuff, but maybe it's a little premature to ask, but I think usually what I'm seeing with like abduction cases and all that stuff, it either spawns a whole bunch of like other people seeing things, or it spawns like unlocks like their ability to like communicate with spirits, or does anything like that, or they've always had it and it's just one of those things that is like kind of like calls out to these beings, and it kind of lights up, and that's who they kind of like focus on. So did you have any insight on that end, or did you like you had those where you would like skip time and you'd be like asleep in different places? Was that your only clue to being like something different is happening, or was there other things that like kind of added to it?
Some interesting abilities that I can't explain where they came from. They're somewhat paranormal. I have these dreams, and I call them deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
But they aren't. I wasn't even going to talk about this. I hadn't even thought that it could be relevant. But I have these dreams, and then 5 or 6 years later, well, anywhere between like 1 and 10 years later, then the dream will happen, and I will see exactly. I'll have this certain feeling, this recollection, and I'll remember the dream sequence, and it's usually a pan. So when I move my head around and I'm seeing this scene, I've seen this before. I've seen the smell, the sound, all of my senses like just jump, and it's like I've seen this before, and then I remember the dream. I was living in Texas for a little while, and I had some crazy experiences. Like, wow, I've been here before, and it wasn't just like I've been here before. It's like I've in a dream several years ago. I remember waking up and seeing this, and like, okay, and then it's just because when you wake up from a dream, you're like, oh, that was strange, and whatever. I haven't seen it before. But then when you actually see the real place, it's a whole different thing. It's like, whoa, this is intense. So that happens to me, and I call it deja vu because I've got no other name for it.
Yeah.
But I have these dreams that are usually kind of pointless. Like, why would I have a dream of driving at night through an apartment complex in Texas?
Yeah.
Like, it's really kind of bizarre, and I've kind of given it a meaning to a way that when I have these experiences that I'm on the right path, because it always seems to happen when my life is moving in a good direction, and it doesn't happen when things are difficult. So
yeah,
that's the best I can come up with. is it's kind of a verse that I'm on the right path.
Right. Well, it's better to do something like that than like be like, oh shit, it's happening again, and freaking out. You're like, all right, great, we're doing good. So,
right.
Have you tried to hone that at all? Have you like written like a dream? You do a dream journal and just be like, all right, how can I lean into this? Maybe it'll be like a little bit more often or something like that.
I've tried on and off. I have ADHD, and so it's sometimes hard for me to stick with things that I start. And I just realized that I had this back in November, and that essentially 90% of my personality is coping mechanisms that I've developed over the years because I didn't like the way that I was because of the side effects of ADHD. And so I've started dream journals several times, but never really stuck with it in any true consistent area.
Yeah.
But another point I'll make is another ability that I have is I can usually tell when someone's pregnant. I can sense the energy. I've seen auras before. One time I went, and I told this story in my podcast. I went to visit my sister in Hawaii while she was living there, and her husband was in the Coast Guard. My mom took it as a great opportunity to travel to Hawaii and have somewhere to stay for free.
Of course, yeah. Because
money was tight, and so it was a sweet deal in that regard. And so we went there, we visited, we stayed with her, hadn't seen her forever, came back home, after this huge plane ride. It's a big pond to skip, traveling over the Pacific Ocean, and then across the whole United States back to New England. And I got home, and I went downstairs into my room, and I just sat down at my desk, and I just laid back. And I was like, whoa, she's pregnant, and it's going to be a girl. And so I got on my phone, and I was like, hey, you're pregnant, aren't you? And she's like, yeah, I haven't told anybody. How did you know? And I was like, I just knew. And by the way, it's going to be a girl. And it was. Nice. And so I've got these... I mean, I don't know if I could tie this back to my experiences as a kid, but I do have these strange abilities that pop up now and then.
Yeah, like I was saying before, that I think that if you have kind of like that innate kind of energy to like see these other things, or like peek into like I've told the story a million times on this podcast about remote viewing, and when you learn how to remote view, you're basically learning how to tap into like the all the information that's like floating around in the world, and your human brains are like receptors, and they train you to be like, all right, just pick out these couple things. So if that can even be like linked to this, like if you get abducted when you're a child, because of like they can see that like, oh shit, like this person can handle what's going to happen to them, because they're going to deal with shit their entire life, anyway. So it's like, hey, come on up, we'll take a look, Oh man, that's good. Heidi says,
what's that?
Oh, I was just looking at chat. It said, Heidi said, I've had things that people would refer to as dreams, only there are certain aspects that make me know that it's from another dimension. Yeah, maybe just like that feed comes into your brain, and you're just like kind of transcribing it. Like, was it John Dee used to look into the crystals and get phrases from like angels, and then ended up turning a thing where like, oh, I gotta fuck your wife, to his friend and all that stuff. I was like, the angel said that? And I'm like, yeah. So, anyway, a little tangent right there.
Well, no, I think that, religion in a lot of ways, people have these mystical experiences, and what I find interesting is that they always pertain to what the person knows. So, like, a Christian will see an angel, a Muslim will see Muhammad, a Catholic will see Mary. It's always these experiences that are often referred to as spiritual. They always go along with what we know, and because it's what our brain knows how to interpret, the way that I see it.
I had
I wish I had all the answers. I understand all that stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not gonna have them until you decide to shed this mortal coil. So, maybe not even then. I don't know. I had.
We'll see.
2 shows ago, or maybe last show, I had a medium come on, and we tried to talk to somebody who had passed on.
Okay.
Who, they'd passed on to the other side, and then they were like, "Hey, we're gonna help." They had transitioned past that, like when people are like, "Oh, I need help moving on," and the medium was telling me how it was very odd, because it was one of the only times that somebody had ever said that they felt regret for moving on, and that they were being punished. And she's like, this feels like some kind of religious thing, like they might be in their own hell or anything like that. So I think a lot of that kind of has to do with your beliefs that you held as a mortal, and whatever kind of box you put yourself into.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff's pretty interesting. So,
yeah, well, speaking of spirits and things, I've had some ghost experiences in my life. Those primarily started when after I got married.
Oh, congratulations.
Ex-wife now.
So, congratulations again. I doesn't work out. It's fine.
Yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But shortly after getting married, we moved into, it was the basement apartment of the house. It was a house I grew up in, but before I moved out, I finished off the basement as an apartment so my mom could use the rental money to help her out.
Yeah.
and because she had a huge house for herself. And so anyhow, we moved in, and there was one morning that we woke up, and you know, my wife at the time loved to hang pictures on the wall, and so we had paintings and pictures and stuff like that hung up, and probably within a few weeks of moving in, we probably had, I don't know, 25 or 30 things in frames hung on the wall, and it was nice. One morning we woke up, and there was just this weird feeling in the air, and we couldn't quite explain it, and you know, we felt like super drowsy, like we'd almost been drugged to a degree. It was just a very weird mood kind of feeling that we woke up with, and as well as this weird feeling in the apartment. And we went outside, and every single picture frame was tilted. Because we're both a little anal about things, and we always want them to be straight. And so the picture frames went from straight to like that. It wasn't just like a little bit, and it wasn't just a couple of them. It was all of them had been twisted and put off place. So that was an interesting experience. There's a small graveyard very close to the house that I grew up in, and there was that house in Elliott. And so we've always wondered if, and then there's been some other noises and things that happened in that house, and feelings of being watched and that kind of thing. But the real crazy experiences happened when I moved to North Carolina. And
fill us in.
A house that was built.
I said, fill us in, please.
We bought a house that was built in the 1920s, and I found out from one of the neighbors that at least one person had died in the house. And let me see. It's hard to know where to start on this one because there was so much stuff that happened. I guess I'll start with the craziest experience. I was doing some renovation work, and I renovated like the entire place. We refinished the floors. I took down sheetrock. I opened up walls. I put in, gutted the kitchen and rebuilt it. And partway through the renovation is where I was at this time. I'd opened up the wall in the dining room, and the crazy part is the experiences started happening once I started renovating. Before that happened, everything was calm and peaceful. There wasn't much going on at all. It was just kind of a normal house. But as soon as I started tearing apart walls and moving things around is when we had these experiences start happening. And so one time we're in the living room watching TV, and I went to the kitchen. So I had to go through the dining room and then kitchen, and I just opened up the wall to the kitchen, and I put this, fancy curved archway and stuff. And so I went to the kitchen, got the popcorn, turned around, and right in front of me, eye to eye, there was a ghost. And it was a female, and she was wearing a dress, and she was at least 12 to 18 inches off the floor. She was just floating there, and she was just looking at me, and I'm looking at her. I'm like, what the hell? And I look to the side, and I look back, and then she turns, and she walks through the wall of the dining room, and right at that point was where my thermostat was. It was just a wall. There was nothing special about that. Whoa, that's crazy. And I went in and told my wife at the time what happened. It's like, holy crap. I just saw a ghost. And it wasn't just like from the corner of my eye. It was straight on. I was looking at this apparition, and it was right in front of me, and I could see it clear as day. It was those experiences that people talk about. They're like, oh, yeah, right, sure. Yeah. And then it happens to you, and you're like, whoa, that's.
So with seeing one that close, was it kind of like in movies where like you kind of see through them a little bit, or they were just like full like. We lost audio for some reason. Hold on.
There was a door.
Nathaniel's audio is coming in and out. Because the story he's telling, it looks like it's awesome, but we can't hear it. Can anybody else hear it? Because I can't.
It would have walked right through that
there
door.
It is.
So it's like whatever spirit that was definitely was familiar with the layout of the place enough to know where the doors were at that point. So she went through the door.
Nathaniel, when you started telling, like after I asked that question, audio went completely out. So didn't hear it. Like,
really?
You saw you being animated and doing. I'm like, oh man, the story sounds like great, but we didn't hear anything. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
sorry about that. Can you rewind a little bit and see if we can?
Yeah, dude, when did you lose me?
Right after I asked, like, if it was like a full like transparent entity, or if it was like you couldn't see through it or anything.
I was in the kitchen. I was looking at this spirit, and it was kind of mostly solid, but semi-transparent. I could sort of see through it.
Yeah.
I wasn't like looking through it because I was looking at this thing.
Yeah.
And I looked off to the side, and when I looked back, it turned and started walking into the dining room, the direction I was facing, and it went through the wall to the left. And I went and I told my wife at the time, hey, this crazy thing just happened, and we talked about it, and that was kind of it for a while. Then roughly a year later, I was doing renovations on the back bedroom, which was adjoining wall. There's the dining room, and then across the other side of the wall is that back bedroom. And I took that wall apart, and what I found out was there was an old doorway.
Oh, wow.
That went exactly where the spirit went, into the wall. So that spirit, I don't know when they boarded up that wall and made the doorway a wall again, but it definitely knew the layout of the house from whatever its time was. So that was like, it was just one of those moments that gives you chills. When I tore that wall apart, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a door, and the spirit went right there. It knew what it was doing.
Yeah, because
know what's going on.
They say that locations kind of hold a record of a person's time on Earth, and they just kind of get stuck in loops, like in like housing and stuff like that. So, yeah, they know the layout of the old house, so they're going right through, no problem. So, how did it, like, after that experience happened to you? How, like, of course, it's like jarring in the beginning and all that, but like, you said it was a little bit until you had your next one, but was that pretty intense for like a while? Did you like, I don't know if this is gonna happen, like, it's gonna happen every night? Is this gonna be like, are we have to deal with this?
That was the most intense one for me. I'm a visual person, so seeing something, it definitely has a bigger impact on me than the other stuff, and that was the biggest impact. But there were definitely some other things, and I always experienced the feminine presence, but there were a few other spirits in the house, and my wife at the time, she always experienced the male presence that was there, and we had kids, and she was there. I was working full time, and she was at home most of the time. So it was. Sorry, I'm getting a call, and I think that's why it muted the sound.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Anyhow, where was I?
Your wife would experience like the feminine, and she was home all the time. Did she have a whole bunch of experience as well, or is it just kind of like she just heard stuff once in a while?
She saw a man's face peek around the door while she was in the bedroom at one point.
All right. And, jeez.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy. Because she was home alone at the time with the kid. And another time, she got really spooked by something in the house and felt like someone was actually there and going to harm her, and so she left and went to pick me up. She picked me up from my college class at the time. Yeah. And then I went back in the house and explored it carefully and made sure it was clear, and then everyone came in. So that was an interesting experience. A few other times there was a dark presence that was there for a while too. There was it was an active place. There was a lot of stuff going on. In that back bedroom where the ghost had walked to was where my kids were. Had 2 kids at the time, and they had a really hard time going to bed. My oldest, he's 18 now, but he was like 3 or 4 at the time, and he always talked about the man that was in the room with them. and that was scary. And then he would talk about that he saw the man in the yard, and we were like, "What man?" It's like, "Oh, the man that's in my room," and it kind of gives you chills. And you're like, "Oh shit, there's someone in the house with my kids." Some strange man. And so at nighttime, they often were pretty terrified, and it was interesting.
How long were you there?
I was we were there for probably 6 or 7 years.
Hmm. Was it
We
like,
probably had some since starting the renovations. That's when it all kind of started happening, and I was renovating the place until we left.
yeah,
So it was quite a while. But we probably had an experience, and I'm just recalling the major one. Probably at least once a month, something would happen that was unexplainable. There was one time when I woke up in the morning, I heard someone knock at the back door, and everyone was asleep. And so I went to the back door, I checked, I was like, what? No one's here. So I walked back in, and then I heard it again. I went and checked, and there was no one there. And then I decided to knock on the wall, because I was like, well, shit, something's knocking, I'm going to knock back.
yeah,
For some reason, that was just what came into my mind. So I went, and then it knocked back to finish the pattern.
yeah,
So that was a pretty creepy experience, because I just kind of wanted to get out of the house, but everyone was sleeping, and like, where am I going to go?
yeah,
And like, I didn't even, the knocking was finishing the pattern was super creepy.
yeah. The intelligent response.
Almost creepier than seeing the apparition.
Yeah, I can see that, because then all of a sudden, like, hey, there's something actively like interacting with me versus the like, oh, I see this person that is like, can't move on or whatever, they're stuck here, or her energy's recorded here or something like that. Like, that seems pretty. You're like, oh well, have fun walking around, I guess, but something actually like interacting with you is pretty intense. So as somebody, like, I had. I don't even know if this was a paranormal experience or anything like that, but like, I was in my garage, and I was just like doing Halloween decorations, and I felt something like drag its hands across my back for like legit like 13 seconds, and I was like, oh, and I like went to try and like see if it was my sweatshirt and all that kind of stuff, and like, it wasn't, and then the next day I found out like my neighbor's wife is buried in his backyard, which is like very close to my backyard. It's pretty close, and so I was like, well, maybe it was her saying hi. So that's my only real experience, and it's all like a what if kind of thing. But so when that happened to me, like, I had like all chills, and I was like, oh, what the fuck's happening? But when something like this stuff happens to you on a consistent basis, is it every time is still like pretty intense, or is it more like you're like, okay, well,
every time it doesn't get normal. It didn't for me, at least. It was always, make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and just hyper aware of the situation, like what's going on, and this just, you get afraid, and because it's something that you can't explain, and that's what terrifies people the most, is what you can't explain.
Yeah. Well, I had Roxy. You've been, since you're from Portsmouth. Roxy, she gives a lot of the paranormal tours around town in Portsmouth, and she goes through, works at Deadwicks and all that. And I had her on maybe like a year or two ago, and so she says that her house is extremely active, and she's come to this like place where she's like, hey, can you guys calm it down? I've got to like work tonight, this kind of stuff. So I guess maybe at some point when you're so involved in this community, when you're so involved in like in your home is like you've been there for years and stuff, maybe it would like chill down a little bit. But yeah, I was wondering what your experience was having that happen so consistently with you. But yeah, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it never really got easy for me. Especially because there was the dark presence, and that scared my kids. And because if it was just me in the house, I probably would have had a different reaction to all of it. But because I had little kids there, it was a little more scary. and a little more unnerving every time that happened. There were I would see this geometric shape sometimes. So if I was in the living room looking through into the dining room, most of the stuff actually, and I never really made this connection until now, most of it happened around the dining room. That's where I saw the spirit. That's where the knocking was. I was in that room when I did the knocking on the wall, and it knocked back. And so it was between that room and then my kids' room at the time, for the most part. But anyhow, I was in the living room looking at the dining room, and I looked and I saw this black shape, and it wasn't quite a square, it wasn't any particular shape, and it was just there, pure black, and then it just shot out of sight, and that gave me chills, and I was like, that's weird.
It was. You said it was a geometric shape. Was it like a? Was it just kind of like flat, or was it kind of like like a 3D object that you could see like spinning or moving or anything like that?
No, it was just this stationary shape, and it was just there, and I saw it, and it was just this most pure black that you can imagine, and then it just shot off to the side. It was just strange. I haven't heard about something like that before.
Yeah, me either.
I've heard of dark figures, but not like shapes. And about a month after that happened, actually, was one of the scariest things that happened, because it was kind of poltergeist-ish. And I was very religious at the time, we were as a family, and there was a picture of the temple that we used to visit, and it was in a frame, and it was sitting on the mantelpiece in the dining room. And we were in the house. It was like a Saturday morning, and what happened is I was in the kitchen, she was in the dining room, and this thing lifted up off the mantle and slammed down on the ground, and the picture frame smashed.
Oh my God!
The glass went everywhere. And it wasn't like it was, kind of tipsy. This thing was leaned back. It had been there for months. There was no motion in the house. No balls bouncing or anything. It was just went from this leaning against the wall to up in the air. It wasn't just like fell over. It went up and then smashed down onto the ground. And at that point, we called someone out of the house blessed. Yeah. And after having the house blessed, then I wished at the time that all of the paranormal activity stopped, but it didn't. But what did stop is the kind of the weird, the darkness. I never saw the dark shape after we had the house blessed, and we never had experience, like my kids didn't see the man anymore that they talked about, and we never had any of those kind of dark experiences happen where, religious stuff got smashed on the ground. That was I don't know, it still kind of creeps me out to think about it.
Yeah, and it's another instance of like actually direct interaction with you. That ends up being a scarier part of it. So I was just what I was thinking of was like with all these experiences that happened with you, and if you had the house blessed, I was trying to think of like if you're like the common denominator with all these experiences, and then you're there and the house is blessed, and then all of a sudden like maybe that might close off part of your connection to this thing to be like, okay, we're good. So it's more of like for your benefit if you're this like conduit for experiences or conduit for like spirits, dimensions, aliens, all this kind of stuff, versus the actual blessing doing. I mean, I guess a ceremony is for people, right? So that could have closed off that little section for you and got rid of that like darkness. So I like to think of that being like more for you than for like the home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never actually thought about that in that kind of way. But yeah, it could be. It could have just been us, and then whoever moved in next, maybe it started up again.
Did you have any other, like, because this was your this was like the big event down in South Carolina. Did you ever have any more like, I'm sure you've had more interactions, but you've had more like dark entity interactions, or has it more been kind of like benign stuff?
I haven't had a whole lot of stuff. That house was just where the stuff happened for the most part. I haven't had a whole lot happen. There were a few times, after moving back up to New England, and we actually bought the house that I grew up in, where we had the first experience with the picture frame getting on filter.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any personal experiences there, but my wife at the time did, and some of the kids had, felt like they were being watched and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard from the kids that some other stuff has happened since I moved out of there, and haven't been there any longer living there. So it does seem like there's some activity in regards to that property that hasn't really followed me around much. But I've continued throughout my entire life to still have these experiences, like with my sister when I knew she was pregnant, and having the dreams that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my kids had a dream that I won the lottery, so I'm really hoping.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
That he's got this ability too. We'll see. But yeah.
Yes. I just want to remind chat that if you got any questions for Nathaniel, feel free to pop them in there. And also, I opened up the tip jar for him as well. So he came on out of his own goodwill. So if you enjoy his chat, so feel free to leave a tip if you'd like. Be cool. So those are your big ones. So what years were was the South Carolina experiences?
I was down there from 2007 to 2013. So 7 or 8 to 13.
So you moved back up. You moved back up here, and you bought the your old home, and that's when you started having the other experiences with the. Because was that before or after the South Carolina house?
Well, I lived in that house. I grew up in that house.
Right.
And I moved in when I had gotten married to my wife at the time.
Okay.
And then we moved to North Carolina and bought that house from the 20s and had all those experiences there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved back and we're in that same house in New England and had some more experiences there.
Was that frustrating to be like, God damn it, we got more shit to deal with?
Well, because none of it was on the same level as we'd experienced in North Carolina, it wasn't that big a deal. It was still a little unsettling. It's like, come on, can we just get past this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did kind of wonder, I did wonder, like, is something following our family around? But the experiences were different enough that it didn't seem like it was the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting in talking to our real estate agent in North Carolina. It was like, yeah, the only thing you don't have to disclose is if there's paranormal activity at the property. Like, it can be haunted and you don't have to say it because some people don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
But I found that it was interesting that legally that's the only thing you don't have to disclose about a property.
So you can feel free not to talk about this too if you want. But have you said your kids had like some premonitions, but have they had any of that you know of like the alien encounters like you did when you were a child?
Not that they've ever spoken about, and I haven't really brought up my experiences with them much. This really hasn't come up.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a little bit. We watched Fire in the Sky together, and I mentioned the experiences, and they kind of gave me some sideways glances.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
They're gonna have whatever opinions they have on things, anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. So, VP in chat said, I was gonna say, do you think an entity was attached to you and was reacting to the surroundings as it followed you throughout your life? Well, I think Nathaniel had a couple different entities in like the different places, especially because of that the stuff down in South Carolina. So, I
really don't think it was one entity following me around, just because of the different experiences, especially in the house down south. It was I saw the woman, and then my wife at the time saw the man. Saw a man peek around the door. So it was it was definitely more than one spirit. That was. I mean, who knows? Maybe that it was that. I don't know. I just kind of feel like that spirit was tied to the house because it walked through the wall where the old door was.
Yeah.
So
It knew.
that one just feels specific to there.
Yeah.
But I do feel like for whatever reason I'm kind of sensitive to this stuff, and whether it's the experiences I had as a child, or who knows,
Mm-hmm. So
it's hard to say.
So I'm just trying to think of if we're going back to your possible abduction experiences. So how did you saw that the photo of the communion book and you're like, I know these things. Did you ever like explore that of just being like, okay, I know these things, but is there anything else that like, how do I know these things? Like, did you ever like kind of, I don't know, did you go to therapy and be like, hey, like this happened, and then they kind of pushed a little further, or did is there any other like details you can give us for anything like that? Or did you just know? Oh, okay.
At the time, I just knew. I was a kid at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about these experiences today, as getting ready for this podcast, and just kind of reminding myself and going over the events of what happened so that I could recall them. But I was thinking about that, and I was like, gosh, I grew up in a really sheltered way. I didn't have cable. My parents were very religious, so there was a lot of censorship that went on as far as what came into the house from the movie store on VHS cassette. And there was no internet back at the time. So, I wasn't even in public school. We were homeschooled. So there was that further degree of separation from society and all things of this nature. So I really didn't, as I was thinking back on the times when the time period when that possible alien abduction happened, and I think it did happen. Just when I add up all the pieces, like what else could have it been?
Mm-hmm.
But as I think back on those times, especially the time when I saw the communion book and recognized that thing,
yeah,
it was a time when I would have had no exposure to that kind of stuff. So all I can fathom is that my experience that I had, that recognition must have been because I saw it.
Yeah,
because, I mean, that's what it felt like to that picture. I was like, I had seen that thing, and it was terrifying.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So when you got...
And I did try hypnosis once.
Yeah.
And I had a weird experience where I was like falling through the sky, through windows, and it was really unnerving. And I was like, and I chose not to do it again. But it was strange because, like, it felt like I was in this, this trance, or whatever you want to call it, under hypnosis. It felt like 5 minutes maybe, and I was like, all right, I'm done with this. And it had been over an hour that the session lasted. So, time is one of those weird things that, when you're waiting for something to happen, it takes forever.
Yeah.
And when something is going on, it goes super fast. So our perception of time can be very strange. But yeah, I haven't explored it with a therapist. I don't usually talk about these experiences much. Sometimes the ghost stories, but the alien stuff not so much. Just because, so I don't like the eye rolls that I get. I don't like, just people scoffing at me and looking at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
So it's not something that I've really explored with other like professional kind of people for that reason.
There's another cryptid podcaster, Kenzie Gleason, and she used to live up here, but we talked quite a bit about this, where she would try to get to talk to people, and like I said earlier in the show, that a lot of people are driven away from talking about their experiences because of the ridicule, because of like job stuff and all. I mean, so it's like, it's tough. It'd be better if we were all a little bit more open about it, so that way you can be like, okay, if it's a little bit more common, then you're like, okay, what the fuck's happening? So you had mentioned earlier that maybe a couple years ago you wouldn't have reached out and come on or anything. What changed with your
Right.
with your outlook on all this stuff, the abduction or even the supernatural stuff? What changed?
That's a great question. And the one of the best things I can well, about 2 years ago I left the church that I was a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And I had grown up very religious in this, and it, was the lens through which I saw reality. I believe that God created the world, and I believe that, there's certain things were going to happen after I was dead, and there was kind of an explanation for everything. And then around the time of COVID, I started looking at things. I was like, and all of these things that kind of tick the boxes of that's weird, that doesn't make any sense, that's strange, how does that work? All of those things kind of fell into place. And the way that my brain works is I will notice something and I'll just kind of store it away. And then eventually, when there's enough things stored away, they just kind of all come back and hit me at once and say, look at this. And I'm like, whoa, this is something about this isn't right. And here's my list of things that aren't quite right. And so what ended up happening is I had to separate when this happened and I chose to leave that religion. I was like, okay, where do I begin and where does that end?
Yeah.
Because it was just, I was so enmeshed in this philosophy and religion that I grew up with that I didn't quite know who I was. And so as I separated myself, like, okay, these are my values and this is who I am, and this is what I was taught was truth growing up. And it was then that I started looking around. I was like, okay, well, if this church wasn't the truth, something's got to have the truth out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, then I started studying Eastern religions. I studied pretty much every religion I could get my hands on. And I was very skeptical of all of it because I just had this falling out with my religion. And I'm like, wow, this stuff really didn't make sense and didn't add up. And I wanted something that was all the way the right, something that added up all the way.
Right.
One
Good luck.
Two, and so we can't have one equals five.
Yep.
And what I ended up finding is in every single religion that I explored, I couldn't find anything that would add up all the way. There was always these loopholes that didn't make any sense, and I couldn't quite explain it. And so I eventually just came to terms with the fact that, okay, I guess it's not religion for me. It works for some people, but it's just not me. And so part of letting that go and just accepting who I was and figuring out my own values and where I stood on things helped me to build confidence in myself and to say, you know what, not everyone's going to believe my story. I'm sure there's people listening right now that might not believe what I experienced. But just because someone else might see my story differently doesn't change what it was for me.
Mm-hmm. So being...
it's...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. You go ahead.
Oh, I was saying with being so enmeshed in religion during your time during like you were a child when the abduction stuff happened, but the with the with the house in South Carolina being so enmeshed in the church, like what did you look to the church for? And did you like speak to like your, I don't know what denomination it was or anything, but you speak to the pastor or whatever about this to be like, I need answers. I just saw a full body apparition in my fucking dining room, dude. Like, what's up?
I did. We did speak, and that was the house was blessed by one of the clergy of our church, and the religion believed that there are spirits. That it believes that people have a spirit in a body. When we die, we kind of hang out until the whole Christian religion thing.
Yeah, called up to
Right. And so it wasn't. There was just kind of some concerned head nods and that's interesting, but there wasn't any kind of scoffing at us or putting us down.
Oh.
As far as the alien experiences go, I never really brought that up in the religious community, just because, again, just anytime I ever mentioned that to anyone, I just got essentially looked at weird and made me feel like I was crazy. So I was like,
Yeah.
just kind of didn't
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff.
I think I posted in the town's Facebook about there was like a UFO sighting maybe like 2 or 3 months ago or overhead. So I posted like, "Hey, has anybody got any pictures of the UFO sighting?" And
Mm-hmm.
it was hundreds of comments, and all of it was belittling it and being like, "Oh yeah, I saw it right at Walmart next to Bigfoot and all that stuff." I'm like, I just want pictures of the UFO, man. Kind of. So there is that common ridicule that happens with this kind of stuff. So I understand that, and then people would reach out to me in private, like, "I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this." I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's just
Yeah.
internet people, or whatever. I expected, a whole bunch of stuff, but um, yeah. So reaching us, I wonder. There's a lot of people that have had like similar experiences to you. Have you ever tried like? I know that you haven't really talked about it too much, but did you go to any like forums when you were searching for like kind of answers? Did you go to any forums of like, "Hey, this happened to me too"?
Not really. I mean, because these experiences when I was pretty little,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't really continue. I haven't really felt the need to really go down that path.
I hear it. Yeah.
But I have noticed recently with the Pentagon releasing documentation, and that was from around the time of World War II, where there were countless UFO sightings by pilots. It was definitely a feeling of validation to see that stuff released in
Mm-hmm.
public, and more people, more pilots that were in from NASA and the Air Force coming forward and saying, "Look, this is my story, and I'm just going to say it." And there was one guy in a documentary I was watching the other day where he ended up leaving his job at the Pentagon because he felt like they weren't taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really validating to see some other people come forward and to see the government kind of release this documentation that says, "Look, there's stuff happening that we can't explain, and it's just what it is." And so it's even though it's not like, yes, there are aliens visiting the Earth and saying that, and it just almost opens the door for more questions, and certainly it opens the door for the same skepticism that's been around since day one. It's just nice to have more acceptance in the community in general. I think it leads to acceptance by the general public to say, "Hey, look, maybe there is something going on,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's comforting to say
Yeah.
to not feel so isolated in my experience.
I think with all the UFO stuff that's happening right now, um, I think obviously I've got no clue, right? But I think it might be kind of like a soft landing for stuff because like yeah, we're getting dripped. We're getting dripped to stuff like, oh, there's alien craft, or like we recover material that's not of this earth, this kind of stuff. So it seems that we're getting like it's slowly like going up into being like, hey, we captured an alien. It's one of those things where like, okay, and now the most people are just like, yeah, we've all seen weird shit in the sky. The government's saying all this stuff about like possible crafts and this kind of stuff. So I think that's the trajectory it's going. If it'll get there in our lifetime, obviously no clue. So it's just like it's an interesting ride to kind of to check out, which I'm sure you're much more invested than I am because I've never had an experience like that. But like the day that happens, like that could be like you get some of that relief now, and like you get that much more. You're like, hey, this shit did happen. This is what. And then hey dudes, why'd you, what's up, why'd you take me?
Yeah, and that right there is my biggest question. That's what I want to know. It's like, what the hell were you cutting me with, and why?
Yeah.
I just these strange marks on my body, these straight lines, and then sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was just like a straight line down my forearm. Other times there were like 3 or 4 lines next to each other, and I just want to know what they were doing. For me, it's more curiosity than anything else at this point. Like, I don't have any more fear of it because I just kind of made peace with it.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, either I could just be terrified of going to sleep every night, or I could just be like, okay, this happened,
Yeah.
and it's done. So here we are. I can either stay terrified or I can move on. So
Yeah.
I chose to move on and to make peace with it.
Yeah. You can either
So,
keep refreshing the news to see when we're in World War III, or just be like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. So, I had a man that I tattooed. I'm a tattooer in Portsmouth, and
Oh, nice.
and I was talking to him about like, oh, I do this podcast like sporadically about this kind of stuff. And he said that he was at a convention and he had talked to Travis Walton, the Fire in the Sky guy, which
Okay.
I'm sure like you've seen interviews or podcasts with him, and his like story isn't as fantastical as the movie, but it's a movie, of course, right? So, but he had told me that when he was talking to Travis alone about this stuff, he's like, I think, and I've listened to a couple of podcasts, but I don't remember this being a part of it. But he's like, I think the aliens accidentally killed me, and it took 3 or 4 days to put me back together and revive me, and then they dropped me off after because they're like, oh shit, I fucked up. Like we killed this dude, let's fix him and drop him off. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. That and then it gives like the aliens or the extraterrestrials, or whatever you call another story in this whole like saga, like Fire in the Sky with us. So you trying to find what the story is behind your abduction case will be kind of interesting because like a lot of people share the same thing that you say happened. So what could it even be for? I mean, how would we even entertain the thoughts of what like an intergalactic species would be or interdimensional species would be? Like, hey, let's take these kids, let's cut them up a little bit. Like, oh, why'd you do that, man? Like, I don't get it. So theorizing, we could theorize to death, but I don't think we'll ever know until like that day comes and there's another being on the front lawn of the White House. Remember those old Weekly World News photos where there would be like
Right.
Bill Clinton meets with alien and they're like shaking hands. Those are always fun.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. It would just be so cool to know just why.
Yeah.
And when I think about the way that our species is, the human race, like we take shit and we cut it up,
Yeah.
and we don't put it back together usually, unfortunately. But I just have to just kind of fathom that it's just a more advanced version of that.
Yeah.
Studying what makes us tick. Like, what else could it be? I mean, I also, and this has crossed my mind too. I was born with a genetic disorder of hemophilia, which means that my blood doesn't have the right clotting protein. My liver doesn't quite make it all the way as it's supposed to, so I have to be careful. I couldn't play football as a kid for risk of injury, and if I get hurt, it takes me long to heal, and I've got to take medicine for it. And so I've wondered a couple of times, like, were they poking around at me specifically because I had this disorder? And if they were, why the hell didn't they just fix me?
Yeah.
That would've been nice. But yeah, so hopefully one day I'll find out, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, man. So you had that, and then so now, like with your situation now, when you're past, South Carolina, and you're out of that house that you were in. Now, do you have any experience now, or is it all kind of like leveled off, or maybe once in a while?
At the moment, it's fairly leveled off. I still do have, at least once a month, I have a dream. I have probably 4 or 5 dreams a month that I remember enough when I wake up to take notes on them. And at least twice a month, I have one of those experiences where I experience a dream that was from the past. And I see it clearly. And so I still have that happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the ghost kind of stuff goes, I haven't dealt with that much. When I was living in Portsmouth a little bit a couple of years back before I got my place in Dover, and I had a couple experiences when I was there. But since moving into the place that I'm at now, I haven't really had any of those kind of experiences. And in a way, that kind of disappoints me.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Because where I am now, back in the past when I wasn't really even didn't have all that much self confidence and I was so enmeshed in my religion. Now it's much more curiosity. Let's see what happens. Let me knock on the wall some more and
Yeah.
let's play with this and do what we can find out because I don't know what's out there. I wish I had all the answers. But there's definitely stuff that goes on that we don't have answers for, and that's I think part of the appeal for people. Part of it is it's terrifying to delve into the unknown, but at the same time it's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've never had an experience except for that one possible experience in my garage, and maybe when my father passed away, I thought I heard his voice, but there's no
Okay.
there's no real proof that I can or not proof, but it could have just been me what's that noise and me overlaying my father's voice, but I've always kind of yearned for that kind of experience, and I have always I've gone to the most haunted places in New England. We've done ghost hunts, and it's all pretty boring because it's you're oh man, I'm out in the field,
Yeah.
it's dark, but nothing ever happens. And then Stina, who owns the shop that I work at, she's she tells me it's you never experience things because you want it too bad, and I was that's such a
Right.
bummer. Because I know that there's people that are more open to these things, more these experiences than I am. Maybe there's something physiological that people can tap into. But would you try to in the future? Could you would you think about honing this kind of stuff, or going out and be hey, I'm gonna read books on how to maybe tap into this stuff? Is that something that you'd want to explore, or you're just I have my time, I'm good. I got to go to work, kind of deal.
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. I'm not actively pursuing that kind of stuff, but I've got a friend who does channeling and is
Oh,
learning a lot
nice.
about that. I had some interesting conversations with her about what that's like, which is pretty interesting stuff. And I'm a very skeptical person by nature.
Yeah.
Like you do. You're okay, I felt this hand on my back, but I don't know. I heard this voice, but I don't know. And so I'm always doing that same kind of thing. It's well, let me see if I can rationalize this away. And sometimes you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still I'm still curious about all of it. And so even though I'm not currently I've got so much stuff going on between my kids and
Yeah.
baseball and
Of course. Yeah.
all the stuff that when I retire and we'll see. But I'm definitely curious. I would like to figure out more of this stuff. I mean, I definitely have some abilities that I don't really have any control over. They just kind of happen when they happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be really cool to kind of focus those, see if I could enhance those somewhat, but I could have a little control over it.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of being in the dark. Boom, here it is.
I think of was the Wim Hof method, where you can control your breathing, you control your blood pressure and your heart rate and all that kind of stuff. I think having these kinds of experience is a muscle that you can work, and and possibly dive a little deeper in, maybe find some answers for yourself. That would be, as a person that hasn't had that kind of experience, I know that I would want to lead into it too. And it sounds like you would kind of want, but you got kids, you got real life to deal with. But I hope that you actually kind of try to look to see what's in there, because as somebody who has that little bit of the little something that attracts that kind of stuff, that's a gift, and that's pretty cool to be able to maybe be able to hone.
Yeah, yeah, and I really should. I'm glad that you mentioned it because it's just something that I've gotten so busy with that I haven't thought about much about honing those abilities, and I would like to.
Yeah.
I want to see what I can do, and I do that kind of stuff where I control my breathing, I've controlled my heart rate before, and I do some active kind of meditation stuff, and I've found that since I've learned how to really quiet my mind through meditation, then I have had some. Actually, I forgot about the experience. One time when I was doing some meditation about 6 months ago, I was laying on the floor and I could hear voices, and they talk about this like I was studying yoga at the time at the in my as one of my explorations with religion. I was like, well, look, yoga, because Hinduism, it's a branch of Hinduism, and they have a lot of interesting philosophies and things that seem to be pretty accurate. There's some other stuff that doesn't, that just kind of falls in the category of religion and superstition. But there's definitely some interesting stuff. And they talk about this whole oneness, and you can tap into this oneness and this energy that's all around us, and that connects everything. And when I was meditating one day, I was able to, it was like I sunk out from the back of my head, and it was like someone turned the radio dial up, and I could hear all these voices. That it was almost like water rushing down a stream, like in the mountains. If you think of the mountain stream with all those rocks, and you get kind of rushing this kind of white noise almost. And it was that, but it was the voices of people. And so I talked to the guru that I was talking with at the time, and he just, it was obnoxious because that was the one guy that was supposed to be like, yeah, let's explore this and talk about this some more, and here's my insight. But instead, he looked at me the same way that people look at me when I talk about my alien experience. So it's like, can't freaking win. But
yeah, but I mean, there's different levels of people that are like kind of that they're into that stuff. There's like the casual guy that's teaching yoga, that kind of shit. So I think you just have to find somebody that is more attuned to that, or a little bit more open-minded. That's which is going to be a lifelong like journey to try to figure that kind of stuff out. So yeah, I hope you honestly do go for that, man, because that's I think that'd be really fun to explore. So if anybody else has any questions for Nathaniel, we're gonna start wrapping this up in a second. So if you got any questions, please pop them in chat, and we'll wrap this up in a minute. So yeah, Nathaniel, if I have if you want to come on again later, so if I have somebody that's like kind of in the same realm or something like that, I'll see. Maybe I'll put you guys in touch, and we can maybe have another show, or see what happens in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, awesome. All right, everybody. Well, Nathaniel, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. This was awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on. And yeah, like everything was pretty fucking intense. So it was great to have you on, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah, and yeah, check out Nathaniel's poetry podcast. It's Sometimes It Rhymes. You can find it on all of the podcast services, Spotify, Apple, and whatever else there is, because those are the only two that I use, so I don't know. Perfect. All right, have a good night, man. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, have a good one.
Oh, end current call. All right. Well, that was Nathaniel. That was great. Great. There was a lot of crazy stories. Being in what's it? When down in South Carolina, it was like seeing that full body apparition was pretty intense. And the alien abduction. I wish we could get more insight into that. I mean, I'm very interested in like the alien abduction stuff, but like obviously his experience was his experience. I just wish we could have delved into that. But like, how do you delve into that? You know what I mean? How do you get more information out of that? Because it's like a feeling, I don't know. It's hard to. It's a hard thing to try to like wedge in and just like attack to try to get the information and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think that was pretty fascinating. That was cool. I think maybe he has a skill that is untapped and that has just been cloaked by his previous like religious like upbringing, and now that he's free of it, I don't know if free is the word, have been able to take the lessons from religion and then gone past it. I think he's gonna experience some shit and get some real knowledge out of this. So I'm excited to see what comes of that. So thanks everybody who put down some tips for Nathanael. I'm gonna give those to him right after the show ends. He's gonna give me his Venmo or something like that. So I had a couple things in the shop. Still, I got a whole bunch of pins. Hold on, let's put up. I just released this T-shirt for people that. Hold on, did that even show up? It didn't. I gotta put this up front. I put this T-shirt up. No. It's a Mushroom Zombie T-shirt. There we go. That in celebration of tonight's season finale of The Last of Us. So you can scoop that up. Thanks to the people that have so far. Appreciate that. So yeah. So I got what do I have for next month? I've got a couple people that I'm speaking to try to figure out the shows and stuff. But like I said, if anybody knows anybody that has any paranormal experiences or cryptid experiences, please send them my way. Or if you have, let me know, because I would love to speak with you and get you on. So thanks everybody. I'm going to end the show. We've got 12 hours to finish purchasing anything in the shop, and then that'll get wrapped up and mailed right to you. So thanks again. Appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.